Look, I'm just gonna say it, if this continues, I might even be willing to cross over the line. I might even be willing to unironically say that I'm a fan of Anna Kasparian. I know it sounds crazy, especially since, well, this YouTube channel started off of making funny compilations and response videos to the TYT. You know, back then, if you would have told me that Anna Kasparian would have a redemption arc, I'd say you're crazy. But what is this? This is probably like the 15th video that I've made maybe in the last year and a half, 2 years. I'm not slamming the TYT or Anna Kasparian as some sort of leftist nut, but actually celebrating and agreeing with what's being said. You know, my criticism of the left over the years has been they've gone completely insane and it's impossible to have a conversation with them because they want to live in a world of naive idealism where the facts don't actually matter, where everything's about feelings and feel-goods, where money's just an arbitrary concept, and you don't actually have to have the money for programs that you wish would be implemented in the country. You just say, ban cow farts, and give everybody a 5,000 square foot mansion. How you gonna pay for it? Well, money's just an arbitrary concept, bro. The patriarchy and white supremacy. You know, it's impossible to have a conversation with leftoids who are living in some sort of, socialist, Marxist fairy tale land. Well, the TYT essentially used to be that place, but I guess no more. At least when we're talking about Anna Kasparian, at least one of them has become a normal, rational human being who can talk about things, and especially talk about policies, from a more rational perspective. Anna Kasparian's road to the red pill started off on the issue of crime. Yeah, who would have thought that decriminalizing crime would be a bad idea? I guess stepping over syringes and dodging hobo assaults on your way to work is one way to red pill people, now isn't it? Well, now it seems as though Anna Kasparian is being red pilled on the issue of immigration. I guess common sense strikes again. Anna Kasparian continues to wake up, and like I always say, if she's gonna say things that actually make sense, if she's gonna have these logical come to realization moments, I'm gonna celebrate it. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. This is a left-winger that I could actually engage with and show some respect on an intellectual level. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so just take a look at this clip.
Something that I'm sure people are either gonna misinterpret or they're not gonna like it even if they interpret it correctly, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, look, I've done research into what the immigration laws are in Scandinavian countries because Scandinavian countries look lit, I'm not gonna lie, okay? So there have been times in my life where I'm like, maybe I do what I need to do and enter a Scandinavian country, become a citizen, Obviously, I'm not gonna do that, but part of the reason why I'm not gonna do that is because their immigration laws are super strict. And you wanna know why they're super strict, Cenk? Because they have a robust social safety net that is paid for by the citizens. They pay a lot in taxes in order to have that social safety net. And so when immigrants come in and they haven't paid into that system, they see that as unfair, which is why they're very restrictive with immigration.
Yeah, I get it. And guys, there's a legitimate reason to be wary of the level of immigration that we allow, and an illegitimate reason. And oftentimes,
finally, a left-winger speaks honestly. We hear the left go on and on about Scandinavian countries and how great they are and how amazing they are. Left-wingers praise these countries and say, we should be more like them. But then they turn around and try to implement policies that are the complete polar opposite of these nations or these model nations that they're constantly praising. We should be more like countries in Scandinavia. You mean countries that are essential ethno-states, that are states with small populations, who focus primarily on their people, their citizens? No, not like that, that's racist. We want open borders, but we also want to be like these Scandinavian countries. Yeah, that's not the way it works. The reason Scandinavian countries are able to have the social welfare or security net programs that they have is because they have thriving industry as well as small populations. They have a solid social cohesion. In other words, they aren't importing millions of people from the third world to apply massive pressure on the taxpayer, essentially taking away those dollars from hardworking citizens who put their money into the system. Finally, someone wakes up. Essentially what Anna Kasparian is saying here is America first. You can't have nice things if you don't have a border. You can't have nice things if you create a totally unsustainable migrant crisis that's costing the taxpayers billions of dollars. And I keep mentioning the same example. Look at what happened in Denver. They declared themselves a sanctuary city. But then, of course, after being totally inundated with illegal migrants, what were they forced to do? They had to cut back on social programs in order to make room in the budget for all of these new potential illegal Democrat voters. It's basic common sense. There isn't enough money to go around. And the idea that there are people who have worked hard, worked hard for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, paying their taxes, thinking they're doing the right thing throughout these decades, paying taxes into the system, expecting something in return, the idea that paying those taxes is somehow going to turn around and come back to affect them positively, the idea that those people should now be shafted because the Democrats want to import millions upon millions of new voters, brand new Americans who simply waltzed on in the country, well, obviously that isn't right. And other countries know this. Other countries are looking at America, scratching their heads thinking, what the frick are these people doing? Yeah, whatever they're doing, let's not do that. Is it because those nations or those people are evil, horrible racists? Well, Joe Biden certainly seems to think so, as he recently went on the record claiming that Japan is, quote, xenophobic because they aren't opening their borders to mass migration. But Japan isn't xenophobic. It's simple common sense. They're protecting their nation. They're protecting their citizens. Not only to avoid economic crisis, but also because of what obviously is going to happen if you open your border to the world's poor masses. If you increase immigration levels to the hundreds of thousands, if not over 1 million a year, you're going to get poverty and you're going to get crime. And obviously you won't be able to properly assimilate those people into your culture. And so what do you get? Well, you get exactly what you see in the United States and in every other country that's opened its doors to the flow of mass migrants. You get a scattered, disconnected population. People say America is the world's great melting pot, but it really isn't. Just look around. Take a look at the demographics. It's a split society. It's a cliqued society, a fragmented society, where the inevitable result is that the nation's culture is lost. Japan obviously knows this, and their goal is to protect that culture, which apparently is perfectly acceptable if you're Japanese, but if you're American and you say the same thing, well then you're a racist, xenophobic bigot. Well, being against uncontrolled, unfettered immigration, well, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't make you a bigot. It makes you a rational thinker. It makes you a logical person. The whole open your borders thing or you're a racist argument is total BS. It's a tool of emotional manipulation and gaslighting that is used by the global elites to dissuade people from criticizing them and standing up against what they're doing. They want to pretend as if it's a moral issue when clearly it isn't. It's mostly an economics issue. It's mostly a, is this policy sustainable issue? It's mostly a policy issue. You know, the question whether or not engaging in these types of policies is sustainable or not. They say you're a racist, and they do that because they don't want you to get in their way. They don't want you getting in the way of their ambitions, because the ambition of mass migration, the whole purpose, is to create downward pressure on jobs, to make labor cheaper. If you have, let's say, 2 million qualified American engineers, and there's 2 million engineering jobs in the United States, well, then that's a competitive job market. But if you have 2 million jobs, but then you import another 3 million qualified engineers, now you have 5 million, all of a sudden you have an oversupply of labor, and that creates downward pressure on wages. That makes it easier for corporations to pay people less and pocket more money. That is the purpose of mass migration, whether illegal or legal. It's for the big corporations to benefit at the detriment of American citizens. And then, of course, political power. Essentially to create a permanent underclass of loyal migrant voters. Political Party X essentially fought to bring you here, which in turn should come full circle, creating a sort of allegiance for that political party. After these immigrants are granted a path towards citizenship, it's a total racket. It's a scam. They're trying to pull a fast one on you, and if you take more than 5 seconds to think about it, if you're a logical thinker, we should all be landing at the same position, asking the same questions that Anna Kasparian asked. Does this make sense? All the countries that I idolize that are supposedly so great aren't doing it. I wonder if that's relevant. Well, yes, it is. Scandinavian countries don't open their borders. Sweden did at some point, but they effed around and found out. The reality is these countries know that they wouldn't be able to afford it, that it would cause horrible problems for them. It would hurt their economies, hurt their voters, hurt their citizens, hurt their social cohesion and culture. And of course, finally, in conclusion, they're absolutely right. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.